3 months after the failed military coup in Turkey, media outlets there are still dealing with the aftermath. The government has blamed the coup on Gulenists, followers of Fethullah Gulen, an Islamic preacher exiled in the United States. Dozens of news organizations have been shut down. However, the purge is not limited to those allegedly affiliated with the Gulen movement. Late last month, another 25 media outlets were ordered closed, most of them Kurdish. Kurds make up almost 20% of the Turkish population. There are almost 15 million of them. And the outlawed Kurdistan Workers Party has been locked in an on and off guerrilla war with the Turkish state for years. These days, under an increasingly authoritarian president, Tayyip Erdogan, more and more Kurdish journalists are being treated as enemies of the state. The Listening Post's Flo Phillips now on Turkey's war against the Kurdish media, both inside and outside the country.
On the 28th of September, Turksat, a state-owned satellite operator, took more than 20 TV channels and radio stations off the air. The networks targeted either broadcast in Kurdish or provided an alternative narrative to the Turkish mainstream media. 5 days later, this started happening.
Gulen TV was broadcasting news and folk music in the Kurdish Zaza dialect. It got closed down. Zarok TV was broadcasting in Kurdish for kids. They were dubbing cartoons into both Zaza and Kermanji. Now, Kurdish kids won't be able to watch cartoons in their own language. Then there was Azadi TV, as well as TV10. TV10 catered to the Alevi community, broadcasting religious rituals in both Kurdish and Turkish. For that reason, it was very important.
Turkey's Radio and Television Board sent letters to provincial governors saying that these channels posed a threat to national security and requested they be closed down. After that, we found out from an agency news report that IMC TV was also on the list. As yet, we haven't received any legal notification.
What Bekir Güneş didn't know was that as we were interviewing him in Diyarbakir in Turkey's southeast, the IMC TV headquarters in Istanbul were being raided. IMC TV isn't even a Kurdish channel. It just covers Kurdish issues. Or it did. The channel was shut down. In the wake of the failed coup attempt on July 15th, President Erdogan declared a state of emergency. Since then, nearly 100 journalists have been jailed. Around 2,500 media workers lost their jobs, and 660 press cards have been cancelled across Turkey. These most recent closures indicate that the media crackdown is now widening. And under Emergency Decree 668, the government doesn't need to explain its actions.
Kurdish media poses a danger to Tayyip Erdogan's slogan, one state, one nation, one homeland. He wants to build a single structure. IMC TV is a channel that was established as an objection to that, and it was very well liked by the public in the Kurdish region. For example, we reported everything that happened in Jazeera. We didn't say the state is doing this or the PKK is doing that. We just reported what happened and left the audience to decide for themselves.
Yanmış, kurşunlanmış, ağır silahların hedefi olmuş binalar.
Türk medyasında görmediğimiz birçok haberi.
A lot of the stories that could no longer be seen in Turkish media could still be seen in Kurdish media. And, as a result, the repression of Kurdish media has intensified. During a state of emergency, the usual norms are no longer invoked. So suddenly, you can be faced with decisions that otherwise could never have been taken. And this is what we've seen. Very radical, very harsh decisions that transform everything all at once.
Aslında dayanağı yok.
Medya kurumları RTÜK'e bağlı.
All media organizations are under the umbrella of Turkey's Radio and Television Board, RTÜK. Someone makes a decision and Turksat turns off the switch. Then you wait for RTÜK to arrive. When they come, they count and confiscate all your possessions, and you're made to leave the building. From that point on, you are jobless.
Burada tamamen ayaklar altına alıyor.
Even if Kurdish journalists do end up getting their jobs back, much of their equipment seized in the raids has been given to the Turkish state channel TRT. And it isn't just Kurdish media within Turkey that have been shut down. Outlets outside the country have been forced to close as well. Channels like Med Nuce, a Kurdish TV station based in Belgium, covered the closures back home from here for audiences inside Turkey and beyond. However, not long after that, the satellite company Eutelsat admitted that they too had come under pressure from Turkey's radio and television board. Within days of that, on October 3rd, the cameras here stopped rolling.
We will fight against this decision. We should be broadcasting in our land, in Kurdistan, in Turkey. But we had to leave because there was so much oppression and punishment. This studio in Brussels doesn't belong to Med Nuce alone. There are many Kurdish journalists who live in Belgium, in Germany, France, Holland. But the main studio is here, so that when we broadcast, we are not under Turkish but European jurisdiction. But we know the Turkish government still exerts both political and financial pressure to shut us down.
The Kurdish media have long been under pressure. During the 1990s, at the peak of the fighting between the PKK and the Turkish military, Kurdish journalists fought to report the Kurdish story on their own terms. The start of a peace process in 2013 created space for a number of new Kurdish media outlets. But the climate changed as talks broke down. Now, Kurdish journalists are facing a new chapter in their story. And critics say they still see Kurdish media as a threat, little more than a mouthpiece for the outlawed PKK.
Kurdish media have never tried to be spokespersons for the PKK because the PKK has its own media. Of course, when you're reporting from the region, there's no way you won't be influenced by the activities of the PKK. But just as you're influenced, you also have the power to influence.
Etkilendiğiniz kadar etkileme gücünüz de var.
Influence comes at a price. Since the peace process fell apart more than a year ago, hundreds of Kurdish journalists have paid for their reporting. And not just with their jobs, with fines, prison time, even with their lives. And yet, still, there are many Kurds in Turkey and beyond, determined to get their story out, whichever way they can.
The doors have been locked and sealed, the screens are dark. But will journalists just sit at home scared? No, because as the whole world is aware, there is a new media system.
Sosyal medya gerçekliği var.
Now we have social media and citizen journalism. Despite the difficult circumstances, the Kurdish media and its workers will continue doing their jobs and informing the public. There will always be people who will communicate the news, the truth.